Hello, everybody. Welcome to One for the Other, the best podcast on planet Earth. It's a podcast where two pretentious douchebags talk about stuff they're not qualified to talk about, but stuff we really like talking about. It's movies and music. Everyone watches it. Everyone listens to it. You love it. We love it. Fucking listen to it. So basically the premise of the show, if you haven't tuned in before, it's basically one of us recommends a movie for the week to watch. One of us recommends a record to listen to. And this is where we air our grievances, air our praises for the record or the movie. So, fuck yeah, let's start. What record did you recommend last week, Joshua?
Last week I recommended for us to listen to Fuck the System by The Exploited. Yes, it's a hardcore album, hardcore / thrash metal, I guess you could say. It's not super hardcore. But yeah, this is a band that I've listened to before, and one of my favorite, just like really hard things to listen to. I really like what they do with hardcore and all that, especially like the way they approach vocals, which is very different to a lot of hardcore stuff that you'll listen to. And actually I was doing a little bit of research, which I don't usually do for it, but I had thought I remembered something, and I went and just looked it up, and I did recognize something. So this album is the reason I know about the origins of the skinheads. Do you know that history?
I don't know the history.
Okay, so
enlighten me.
So the reason I say it is because they had skinhead fans. But yeah. Skinheads originally born in England in like the 60s, and it was a working class thing. Oh. And they would just like shave their heads or whatever. And it was kind of just like a solidarity. It wasn't necessarily political, but it was just like being for the working man and like supporting all of that. And it also crossed like racial lines, like when there's a lot of Jamaican immigrants and stuff, when we saw like ska and all that come over to the UK. And so in like this like late 80s, when punk happened, and then hardcore came out of punk, and then straight edge came out of hardcore as another, like, we're super hardcore, they adopted the idea of being a skinhead into that. Okay. So a skinhead was also kind of an offshoot of straight edge. And you can kind of see that with like mohawks, how you shave most of your head and stuff. And it wasn't actually until later that neo-Nazis kind of took over the look. So obviously skinhead, even though it has its roots in the working class, it is still a Nazi thing, so I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, that's actually the origin of skinheads, is it's a working class thing. There are still left-wing and apolitical skinheads.
Oh wow.
But
I didn't know that. That's cool.
So yeah, Fuck the System, The Exploited. They were a punk band in the broadest term from the late 90s and early 2000s. This was actually their last album that they've released. They've played live, but they haven't released another album from 2003. So yeah, I'm really curious to hear what you thought of the album.
Okay. Well, and I was looking up. I was just skimming the Wikipedia on this record, and there's something about how 500 fans of the band started a riot in Montreal, and they were flipping cars, and they set them on fire, and they're like breaking store windows and shit, and then they weren't allowed to play in Mexico City after the riot. So Maybe those are your skinheads at work. They're pushing over cars. They're listening to this record, and they're like, the Montreal Skinheads. That's the hockey team name. The Montreal Skinheads. Okay, but anyways, that's just something interesting that I found. They're from Scotland also, and I actually really liked the vocal inflection, because like the cliche hardcore thing, I really hate like the whole growling thing.
Yeah,
people might give me shit for it, but it's just like I don't want to listen to like an hour of that.
No, I totally get that. Like I don't listen to very much hardcore just because a lot of it does kind of sound the same.
Yeah,
And like there's obviously exceptions, but like a lot of the stuff really sounds the same, and especially the vocals. And like so most of the hardcore that I listen to for the instrumentals, and half the time I'm tuning out the vocals anyway.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people do anyways. Like there's some fucking cool riffs in some hardcore, but it's just the vocals are like, I don't know what you're fucking saying, and you want me to like take a message from this, but it's just like, what the fuck? Like, what do you expect? So I really like how, you know, I could understand what they were saying, and you know, the message came across pretty clearly. I'll talk about some things that I liked about the record. The title track, the first track, Fuck the System. I really like the guitar solo in that song where he's just like it's just like fucking about on a guitar, and I like perfectly encapsulated like what a hardcore guitarist does when he has a solo. And it was just like, oh, that was cute. I like that. There were some funny lines in some of the tracks, like in a fucking liar, like pack your bags and get to fuck. I like that a lot. That made me chuckle. The drumming on the whole record was actually pretty good. I actually really like the drumming in a lot of the tracks, like You're a Fucking Bastard, and you know, Noise a Noise. That was another highlight for drumming. And the production, you know, was competent. I could hear the bass. I could hear it wasn't overshadowed by the fucking guitars like it always is. The bass lines were really chuggy and really fun, kind of, you know. But those are the things I liked about the record. And, you know, I have a lot of problems with this record.
A
lot of problems with this record.
Tear it apart.
Okay. So you start listening to this record and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can get down with this. Yeah. And then you kind of keep listening to it. You're like, okay. Uh-huh. All right, so this is the same song 13 times? Like over and over and over? The same vocal pattern? Same, like, fucking really on the nose, like, no subtlety lyrics. It's like, fuck the system. That's all you had to say. Or, like, I don't know. It's just like, you listen to it a second time and you're like, okay, I completely understand what's going on here. And it's pretty boring and repetitive, and like I can tell in my notes, like I was like kind of really positive at the beginning, but then I was like, okay, this is fucking not my favorite hardcore record at all. You know, one of my least favorite tracks is I Never Changed. It's a whiny ass fucking breakup song that I don't want to hear on a fucking punk record called Fuck the System that features one of my favorite album covers ever.
Yeah, that's like a theme through their whole discography. I don't know if you've looked at it.
Yeah. The whole skulls, and I love how the mohawk is part of their skull, and it's just like sticking out. That's great, but it's just like there's some of those tracks where it's just like whining about like your girlfriend's a bitch, or like I broke up with you, I don't know. It's just like, it's not what I expected, honestly. One of the notes that I wrote down is like, you know, you can listen to the first 10 seconds of it, every song, and get the gist. Like, there was like one or two songs where there's like a beat switch, or like it solos the bass and the drums or whatever, but it's really predictable and it's kind of formulaic, and it's kind of, I don't know, ironic, because there's the Never Sell Out thing, the Never Sell Out song on the record, where they're tearing apart, you know, fake punks, and, you know, we're never gonna sell out. But the album, it like reeks of the stench of like mandatory like contract record. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like It's 13 tracks long. They're all like, oh, I guess they're not all 2 minutes long, but most of them are like 2 minutes long, 2 to 4 minutes long. And it's like, I don't know, an hour. And I don't know, it seems cookie cutter. You know, they're taking from thrash and they're taking from punk and they're using those cliches to just kind of spew out this boring shit. I don't know. What's your argument? Did you like this record? Did you not like this record? What do you think?
I love this record personally.
Okay.
I mean, I totally get that. I think a lot of, I enjoy just that energy and being able to, keep that energy for the whole album.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has its place as that.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, you don't want to listen to the same song over and over, but you want to keep that energy somehow.
That's true. It's hard to do that, man. It's hard to keep that same energy without, doing the same thing over and over. It's very difficult.
I mean, but I get that, and a lot of it is very the same. It's not quite hardcore, not quite thrash. It kind of finds its own identity, but also doesn't really like. The biggest problem I had with the record was a lot of those like solos, and where they go into a breakdown, and it's just not as heavy as the rest of it is. Like the vocals really carry the entire album for me. A lot of the drumming, like you said, is great. The bass is great, and the guitar can be super cool, but a lot of the times when they take away the vocals, it just doesn't. It feels like something is just left behind, and like we're pausing for a second. And I feel like I danced like less whenever they did that. There were like a couple parts where I was like, oh, okay, this part's actually cool, and like Holiday in the Sun, that instrumental leaned more into the hardcore. There were other parts where I'd be like, okay, I can hear the hardcore in this. And I think if they had just fully committed to making a hardcore album with their instruments, then I think this album would have been way better.
I think you're right. Yeah, because like tracks like Why Are You Doing This to Me? It has that very classic thrash, like that kind of groove to it. And thrash has been around for fucking ever, and even metal fans don't like thrash anymore. You've heard the moniker like thrash is trash, right? I don't know. And there's also some portions where you can very much tell that it was written in 2003, like a Noise with that guitar lick that's like that stupid ass like harmonic thing. It made me laugh, but I completely understand where you're coming from though, and it does. It's not taking itself seriously, and it's not doing anything groundbreaking, but I can see how people can like it and can mosh to it. And like, I bet if I saw this live, I would have a fucking riot. Like it would be a great live show.
I'd love to see this album live.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be great. But that's kind of the problem with a lot of punk bands and hardcore bands, metal bands. The experience sometimes comes from live performance and doesn't really come through in a studio recording.
Yeah.
So
I can definitely see that. And it's not anything new. I think if you're a punk fan, you'll like that record. If not, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's definitely some highlights. I love, going back to the title track, that opening, just Scream.
Yeah, I love that. I actually really dig that.
That was so much fun. And then I didn't notice this, actually. I've listened to this album before, but I didn't notice until recently that during that solo, they bring back the Scream in the background. I don't know if you heard that.
No, I didn't hear that. It must have been really far back in the mix. That's cool.
It is. It's super hard to hear, but if you're really blasting it, you can hear it in the background.
That's cool.
It's really fun. I thought that was another one that had a dope instrumental. I really loved You're a Fucking Bastard. That was just so much fun to go to, and really chugged, and I could really... I think
that might have been my favorite track, like overall. Like it had the vocals and the lyrics were just, you're fucking bad. Like there's not really much to it, but it's like, it's the most fun I had listening too on the record, and it's like early on in the record, so it's still like new and fresh and kind of fun. The last track, Was It Me? It kind of took, it was a definite change of pace, and I liked it even less than the rest of the tracks. What did you think of the last track? Because I didn't like it at all.
Wasn't Me used to be one of my favorites, like before, and just this listening, it's changed a bit. I still like it more of like as an arena rock song.
Yeah,
is almost more what it leans towards, and I'm into that. I've listened to some bands who have leaned into that arena rock side from their punk, so I enjoy that. But it definitely feels weird and out of place, and I think that's what made me change it. Is just going back and listening to the album as a whole and being like, that's kind of weird. One of the things I did think about it was you talked about how it's like a breakup song, and it is, definitely, you never told me what we fell out about. Was it me? I thought it was funny because it's another time where it's a sad song or sad topic, but the artist doesn't use it, and I figured out why I like when the punk bands do it. I figured out why. It's because anger feels like a natural reaction to that. Like I could see being upset about your dad dying, taking it back to September Ends, or someone breaking up with you. I can understand anger to that. I can't understand upbeat pop like that. So that's why I think sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I was just like, oh, I think that's why.
I can see how that comes through as, I don't know, because that track just kind of comes out of nowhere, because it comes from Violent Society, which is really, I don't know, punk. It's really just punk in its not true essence, but in the Exploited's true essence, if you know what I'm saying. It kind of just sounds like, I don't know, a pop punk kind of copy thing. It sounds so 2003, and a lot of my least favorite music came out in the early 2000s. So it's just, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's very strange for this record, and that time. I think that's just listening to it now also, I think, where it's like, it'd be like listening to something that came out in the early 90s in like 2005, and it's like,
exactly.
Like it's too recent to be good again. So
I think at one point in time it'll be like nostalgic. And I think it kind of is getting to that point, with a lot of the post-grunge shit. Like, you have the good post-grunge, like, I don't know, System of a Down, bands like that. And then you have your really shit post-grunge, like Nickelback, Creed, all that shit. But it's getting to that point where it's like, oh, I remember listening to fucking Nickelback and having a good time. So yeah, I think in a few years, I think maybe I'll look back at this record and be like, okay, maybe it was like, it was fun. It was a good time. They didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And
would you say that's your weakest track, your least favorite on the whole album?
I think so. I think that one was just like, and it's the last track, and something about the flow of a record, you're expecting something different but mind-blowing at the same time to leave you off with a good taste in your mouth, but that just left me with a bad taste in my mouth. It was just like, I ate a fucking warhead, man. It was like, why did they end the fucking record with that? They should have started it and ended it with Fuck the System, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so if you had to keep the same track listing, you couldn't change the listing, but you can move it around.
Yeah.
Same tracks. What would you do to end it differently? What would you put at the end instead?
I would honestly put like fuck. I would probably flip the last track with the first track. But that's also another thing. It's hard to put a title track at the end of the record. So maybe you could replace "Was It Me" with "You're a Fucking Bastard," and that would maybe flow a little bit better, so you could keep the title track as the first track, but still end it on like a really fast-paced, really chuggy banger.
I could see that. I could also see Never Sell Out, just because that ends really nicely, I
Definitely.
think. So I think that would just be a good run. But yeah, You're a Fucking Bastard would be a really good way to bookend.
Yeah.
And you never notice that when you're streaming, but if you listen to physical media more, you definitely hear that more.
Definitely.
Like the Against Me record, Transgender Dysphoria Blues. When I first started listening to that just on streaming, I would start with the last track and loop it. Is always how I would do it because I loved that track so much.
Yeah.
And then when I bought it on vinyl, I couldn't do that anymore. And I had to listen first track all the way to the end.
That's true. That's true. It's interesting how physical media forces you to do that, and it forces artists to make conscious decisions about the track listing. It's like, oh, how is this going to flow? And I feel like in 2003 that should have been a bigger concern because it was the height of the well, I don't know, not the height of the CD, but CDs were still around and being bought quite a bit in 2003. So I guess there's Napster and shit was happening too. I don't fucking know what I'm talking about. I'm a fucking idiot. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I like how physical media forces artists to think about the flow of a record, and I really value the flow of a record. And even if some records or some songs on a record flow into the next song, shit like that, I really dig. And that there's actually a point in this where it ends, I can't remember where it was, but it ends with, one song ends with a voicemail. It's like, pick up your phone, you fucking...
Oh, yeah, that's on...
you fucking shithead or something like that.
Oh, what's the point?
Yeah, it's...
It starts and ends with that voicemail. Pick up your fucking phone, shit. And it ends with, why don't you pick up your phone? Why don't you pick up your fucking phone?
Yeah, I actually, I dug that a lot. So we're coming to the point in the podcast where we have to rate the record. And the more I talk about it and the more I think back on listening to it, the more I like it. But when I listen to it, I don't like it. So I originally had it as a 4 out of 10. But I think I'll push it up to a 5 out of 10 just because of how much fun it sounds like they're having. The mix is great. The vocals, I actually really enjoyed. The lyrics, not so much, but the vocals and the style of vocal, I really enjoyed. And the album cover, obviously. That's my favorite part of the record is the album cover. And like the shitty font they use. It's like broken and everything. I love that.
It's like the Flintstones.
Did you know that the Scottish hardcore band uses the Flintstones font? Yeah, so I'll give it a 5 out of 10.
Legacy.
What do you give it, Josh?
Well, like I said, I really enjoyed this record. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10.
Oh my god, you're a fuck.
I love this record. It's so much fun. I just put it on. I bounce whenever, in the fall when I would be coming home from work right at the time the Broncos games got out. So I'd be stuck on a packed light rail with just a bunch of like white people around me. I would put my headphones in and put this on at full volume just to like make them scared or something. And I still do that. Like it was great because I would go out skating and I have my Jeep with the windows off.
Yeah.
And I'd put this on, crank it, and blast it, and everyone's outside, so
yeah,
it was great. I felt like bringing the punk to
the neighborhood,
suburban town.
Yeah, exactly.
It was fun,
and it's personal experiences like that really make a record great. Yeah. And I could totally see how that could be a fun time. Like, I listened to this record sitting on my couch, doing absolutely nothing, and just really tuning in and listening to it. But, I could totally see how, if someone were to work out to this record, it'd be really fun. If someone were to play it live, as I said before, it'd be super fun. So I think that's also part of the reason why I put it up from a 4 to a 5.
It's really fun to wake up in the morning and immediately put this on.
Just fucking wake you up better than a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that.
Old man turn that stinking music down.
Yeah, I don't know if you can call them. Oh, it is spoken word, but the spoken word tricks are fun.
So much fun.
So yeah, where are we placing it in the tier list, homeboy?
Well, I'm inclined, as I don't feel you are,
Yes,
to put it in between Currents and Death Sounds.
Honestly, I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah?
I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah.
Because, Currents is kind of a fucking lame record. It's beautiful, it's great, and I keep contradicting myself. I keep contradicting myself, and I think that's what's gonna fucking kill me with this podcast. But it's just like the association I make with that record and the type of people that listen to Currents are not the people I want to hang out with. When I listen to the record, I really enjoy it. But when I hear the association that other people make with the record, it makes me like it less, if you know what I'm saying. But, with this underground Scottish hardcore band that no one's fucking heard of, and they're like, dude, listen to this record. I really like it. I'd be more inclined to hang out with people like that.
Yeah.
So...
Actually, did you see... That was funny. There was a documentary called Punk's Not Dead that was done, and they interviewed the Exploited as part of it. In their Wikipedia page, it notes that they were the only native English speakers to require subtitles because their accent was so thick that documentarians thought audiences wouldn't be able to understand them.
Oh, wow. That's really funny. Those fucking Scots. Okay. Yep. Yeah, go ahead and put it under Pet Sounds above Currents.
There it be.
There it
be lying there.
Okay.
So yeah, and then Lane, what did you pick out for us to watch? What was it? I don't remember.
Oh, should I remind you, my boy?
Yeah, I didn't even watch it
because I forgot. Shit, maybe I'll be right back. I'm gonna go watch this movie. The movie I recommended last week, one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. It was Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas. Could you hear that? Was that too quiet?
I heard that.
Goodfellas. Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas came out in 1990. It's just one of those classic mob movies that I personally cannot get enough of. I wish there was one made every year by this fucking old man. This old Italian man, Martin Scorcese. Bye-bye. Okay. Disclaimer, this podcast has spoilers, and it might be racist against Italian people, sorry. So yeah, right. With that knowledge that it's one of my favorite movies of all time, Joshua, what did you think of this movie?
I thought that Goodfellas was a perfectly solid mobster movie, and that was about it. Okay. I thought there's nothing wrong with it. I enjoyed it, but I was like, that was cool. That happened. I'm ready to move on. I'm not obsessing over it. I'm not necessarily raving about it, but I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Are there any anything in particular that bothered you, or is there anything in particular that you really liked, or was it just kind of an average experience for you?
Well, I mean, there was definitely the goods and bads. I will not elaborate on them whatsoever.
That's the end of the podcast, guys. We'll see you next week. Fuck you all.
Thank you so much. But yeah, there were definitely one of the things that I actually noticed was the casting of Ray Liotta's character as a kid was really good.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Immediately able to tell that is who that character is, and he grows up and you immediately recognize that's who that is just because of where it is. So that was really good. I mean, the acting in general was just really solid. I thought it was really interesting to just kind of see what they did because, it doesn't really follow the typical plot structure necessarily. It's kind of like Thoroughly Modern Millie comes to mind, strangely enough. This weird movie from the 50s, but where there's not necessarily one central event that the plot is happening around. It's more of just this is what this character kind of goes through, and just kind of like not necessarily just their average day necessarily, but just like this is some things that this character does. I think that's always really interesting, and it kind of provides a different sense of pacing and storytelling, which I really enjoyed. I thought it unraveled great. There's a vertigo shot, a dolly zoom at the end. I don't know if you caught that when they're at the diner. That's a really good zoom.
Love that fucking shot. Oh my god.
It's so good. The dialogue is written really well. They do that naturalistic thing where people are stuttering and cutting each other off and
yeah, that's what I noticed too. They're always stuttering and saying fucking, and they're stuttering like us doing this fucking podcast, and we don't know what we're doing.
Over each other, just like them. Yeah, especially like Joe Pesci's character.
Oh yeah.
All the time, just can't get a sentence out, and there's tons of they'll do establishing shots, and instead of just using like ambience, just like walla is what it's called, of just like people talking, they'll like go through and you can hear snippets of conversation, and it'll overlap a little bit, but like it's all very much like these are all real people just talking, and you don't always know when people stop talking, or sometimes in a big group 2 different conversations happen at the same time. So I really enjoyed the writing, the dialogue, and there was I forget when exactly it was, but there was one part where someone is shooting in slow motion and it actually worked.
Yeah, it did. It was when Joe Pesci's shooting Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah.
I was like, well, that actually looks good. I was wrong about never doing slow-mo gunshots, because I thought that even if you were to just do it practically, it would look weird. But I don't know, they did it really well.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I didn't like was the like weird freeze frames. Yeah. What the fuck is that? Yeah. Like the most inorganic moments too. It's like the middle of someone jumping over something and they're like, we're gonna stop it in the middle. Yeah. Do some really weird voiceover that's not necessary. Like a lot of the voiceover was really cool.
Yeah, what did you think of the narration, like overall? Did you think it added or subtracted anything from the story or the plot?
Helped. Yeah. Just because that's a world I don't think a lot of people know a lot about.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm sure people that watch a lot of mobster movies know about it, and they probably don't necessarily enjoy it, but I don't watch a lot of that stuff. So for me, it was really nice to like see like, okay, this is kind of how everything works. And like I said, it's not about one central, 3-act structure of here's something that happens, builds to this point, and then everything is resolved. It's just this character and what he goes through. So like being able to hear what he's thinking about and kind of situations he's in, I thought that worked really well and allowed them to keep moving forward through time without having to stop and explain, because they're like, we'll just fucking tell you.
Yeah, I really liked the pacing in the movie. It never felt like it was lagging behind, and the parts where it was intense, they took the time and they paced it out like so fucking perfectly, to where there's that scene where Joe Pesci's character is introduced for the first time and they're in the bar and he's doing the whole like, I'm funny how? I'm funny, like I'm a clown, I amuse you, like that whole thing. And it's like it's like really slow and quiet and really fucking, it's like the most intense part of the whole movie, and it's like about a fucking joke, and it's like, oh my god, like why am I panicking right now? Like this dude is just it's a fucking Italian dude's talking about how he's a fucking clown. And yeah, I completely agree with the whole narration thing. I think Ray Liotta's narration, I think it was perfectly written and like really well put. Like there's a large section of the movie where there's not a lot of narration and it just kind of speaks for itself, but when it comes back it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely a part where it's needed, or just to clarify things. And I think Karen, when Karen overtakes the Karen, Henry's wife, she overtakes the narration. She does a really great job too, and I love her accent, and I think she's one of the best characters in the whole movie, and just how well domestic violence and abuse is portrayed in that movie, and how manipulative Ray Liotta is. That scene where she wakes him up and she's pointing the gun at him, and he totally calms her down and like hits her, and then she starts like her her crying is like fantastic. She's like the perfect fucking like ugly cry face, and she has like the whole Jewish accent going for it. It's completely perfect. And another scene it's one of my favorites is the hostess party, right after they get married. It's just jump cutting to all these disgusting Italian women, and they have like there's the one with like fucking herpes on her lip and like the gross teeth and the fucking what's that called, eyeshadow. It's like blue and disgusting, and it's like zooming in and zooming out, and it's like completely chaotic, and I love how that scene was just directed. And yeah, I think how they explored the perspective of the wife of a mobster, and Scorsese's done this a few times, and he's like really good at finding crazy women to play crazy wives in his mobster movies. But it's really interesting just to see the perspective from her. But what I really would have liked to see was the perspective from his kids and what they thought of it and what they were going through in terms of like domestic conflicts. Like there's like one zoom in on the kid where Henry and Karen are fighting, and the kid's just standing in the doorway crying or whatever, and it really got me thinking. I was like, oh shit, it would have been cool to see more of that. But I think if they did that, it would have ended up being like a 3.5 hour long fucking movie.
Yeah,
and it's already a lengthy movie, and the pacing's good, but Scorsese's explored that in the Irishman really well, which is another movie you should watch.
Recommended it a couple weeks, loser.
No, I won't do another mobster movie. But it's just the pacing and the directing, like the directing on those long, like really long tracking shots where he's walking through the kitchen of the club, and he's like being treated like a fucking king, and there's no cuts. I don't know why I love that shit, but I really do. It seems like really simple, like it just makes it seem more genuine in real life, And I know a lot of people have a lot of problems with that kind of cliche with the whole, long shot equals good, but I'm one of those apes who agrees with that sentiment. I
thought the long shots worked really well in this just because they didn't feel standout.
Yeah, definitely.
There's long shots where it's like, look at how long this shot is, and that can lead more into that cliche. But like, I can think of long shots from the movie, but I never sat there and was like, wow, that's a long shot. Yeah. So I think that worked really well because it just fits into the telling of the story, which is what I think most cinematography should do as a whole. So I think it accomplished its goal really well doing that, and especially like I said, with the structure of not following one story, I think that lent itself really well to like exploring the whole Karen storyline and all of that.
Definitely.
It actually made me think of the movie Waves, which recently came out by, I think his name is Trevor Schultz. But I got to see that at the Denver Film Festival, and it does a similar thing where halfway through the movie totally switch main characters, and there's just no possibility of ever going back to the other character. I won't necessarily say why, just because I think people should see it, but it felt kind of like that, where it's like, okay, now we're going to explore this person, not necessarily their side of this story that we've seen, but their side as we continue moving forward.
That's true. They didn't stop and go back. It just kind of naturally happened in the course of the plot, which is fucking awesome. I really hate it when movies just stop in their fucking tracks and backtrack, and then they work their way back. But it's like, have you read a Stephen King book? You've read Stephen King, right?
I read some short stories, but I haven't read
he's completely guilty of that fucking thing where a new character is introduced and then he has to go back through their life and explain every goddamn fucking thing that they've been through, and then they resume the story and it just completely halts it. Read fucking Pet Sematary, and it's exactly that. But it's like Scorsese kind of makes it a point to avoid that, and I really appreciate it. Honestly.
crazy that that's based off of like real people too.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, they're like, "Yep, he's in with pro, and Jimmy is up for parole in 2004."
Yeah.
Like, did that dude? Is he out on parole now? Is he dead? What's his deal?
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, and it makes you like do research, and I think that's a sign of a really good movie is when it gets you interested in what actually happened. Do you have a favorite scene in the movie?
I don't know. Probably not. I mean, I really enjoyed a lot of when they are burying.
Oh, Billy Bats.
Billy Bats, yeah, when they're burying him. That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And just the lighting they do with that.
Yeah, the whole red thing and the smoke and everything. Oh, I love that, yeah.
I did write down that I don't remember exactly when this is, but when the song Sunshine of Love comes in, it's a really, really cool shot.
The soundtrack in this movie, dude.
Okay, let me say something, though.
Yeah.
Sunshine of Love, that's the Cream song, right?
Yes.
The very next song is also Eric Clapton.
Yeah, it's Layla.
I was like, you can't put those back to back. No.
Yeah. Why not?
I say no.
Eric
because
Clapton.
I said so.
Scorcese don't listen to you.
Change.
No. Well, they didn't use the part of Layla where Eric Clapton's singing though, do they? They just used the piano part.
I wouldn't remember. I just remember being like, "This, what? You can't."
No,
everyone knows. Clearly, all of my music varies differently from track to track. I need everything to be very different. Mm-hmm. I would hate a record that sounded the same the whole time.
You funny. Okay, I have to nerd out about my favorite scene. It's the fucking scene. Well, it's a series of scenes, I guess. I don't know. It's the end of the movie where Henry Hill is like going all around fucking town and he's being fucking followed by a helicopter and he's like doing coke and he's like making fucking dinner for his brother, and he's like arguing with this babysitter about, you know, where to tape cocaine or whatever to smuggle it to Atlanta, and it's like so perfect and like so chaotic. It like makes me have a panic attack every time I watch it. I'm like, oh my fucking god, like it's so much to take in. It's so much, I don't know, it's weirdly relatable. I don't know why, but sometimes you just have days like that where you're just like fucking doing this and this and this and that and this. I mean, granted, we're not doing cocaine and trying to get rid of guns and things, but it's just like, I
mean, maybe you're not, but
okay, cool guy over here. He's cutting cocaine with, I don't know. What are you cutting cocaine with?
But I don't remember what he said.
Yeah, I don't remember what he said. To go back to the soundtrack, he like gets into the car and the song changes, and then he does a line of coke and then the song changes like instantaneously, and it just adds to that sense of like thrill and chaos and like paranoia of what's happening, and like
that whole plot point is just insane and just like you said, just so chaotic. It's so stressful.
It is, and I love it so much, and it's and it's like really funny. Like he's like, the narration is perfect for that, and he's like, these fucking women, and they're fucking up my shit, and I have to make dinner for my kid brother. Like,
I did think the kid brother thing was weird to bring back, because he's like at the beginning of the movie and it's like, okay, weird, he's in a wheelchair, and then he disappears for the entire movie because he leaves his whole family behind, and then he just back at the end and he's like, yeah, I just gotta pick up my brother and make dinner with him, and like, you know, gotta make dinner. And I was like, what? When? I haven't seen you talk to anyone in your family since you like started working for them and had the guy beat up for delivering your mail.
That's very true.
I don't even think at the wedding, like, I didn't see his family. I saw Paulie in that family, but I didn't see his mom and dad. I didn't see his kid brother. Like, it's just really weird to bring in, like, not just bring his kid brother back as a character, but like in such a thing of like, yeah, I gotta pick up my kid brother, and it doesn't seem like a weird thing for him. He's like, hey, I gotta get him from the hospital. Of course I gotta. What else?
Yeah. But that's just kind of the whole that's kind of a motif throughout the movie is family. I mean, not necessarily with Henry's character, but with other people like Joe Pesci's character Tommy. Like, they go over to his mom's house to get a shovel, and then she cooks them all dinner, and it's just like.
But that's like a one-off thing, and it's like, okay, we're here and we do this, and like that's fine because that's just one thing.
But that's just how Italians and work. I don't know. It sounds really racist, but it's just like their outlook on family. Like, you just got to do shit for them.
I think that scene would have worked okay if you had replaced the kid brother with one other random task. I don't think the kid brother was the most important thing.
Yeah.
And it just threw me off because it was suddenly bringing back a point. It wasn't bringing up a plot point.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, like, okay.
When they go to Joe Pesci's mom's house, that's a great scene. I love that scene.
I love that scene too.
And, like, they're eating, and it's like 3 a.m, but she's making like sausage and pasta.
Yeah, it's like a full fucking meal, and they're just like eating fucking meatballs and shit.
Like, that's just like, but that's its own thing. It's the first time we bring it up, and like, okay, this must be what they do. But it's like, I don't know. Like I said, we kind of see his day. We kind of see what's normal for him, or not necessarily normal, but like things that happen to him. And like, this seems like something that happens to him. Picking up his brother seems like something that happens to him a lot. The way he talks about it, but we've never seen it, and we followed him like through aging and through all this stuff that he's gone through. He's been to prison. He's developed a drug addiction. Like, so much has happened, and we haven't seen his family, which is fine. I think that's interesting to explore the theme of family in terms of this is kind of, these people adopted me as their own, and they take care of me, and I think that's really neat. But then to like do that and then be like, oh, his real family, we talk about him still.
That's true. And what's also weird is that he picks him up at the hospital. Like, I thought he was going to pick him up at the airport, but he picks him up at the hospital. Like, he lives in town. like not very far away, obviously, if he can go pick him up at the local hospital. So I don't know. That was weird, but that's my favorite scene of the whole movie. It has a really good George Harrison song playing for a part of it. Georgie boy. We love our Beatles, if you couldn't tell. Yeah.
All right. So what do you rate in the album or movie?
Movie album. This is a 9 out of 10. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's formulaic, but it kind of started the formula. Like, it's well, no, not really, because you had Godfather and everything in the 70s, but this is the formula for modern gangster movies, I'd say. So yeah, 9 out of 10.
I would give it a solid 7. Like I said, didn't blow me away, but solid movie, just good all around.
Yeah.
So
I don't really have any complaints about it. I mean, if I had to pick on some things, like the freeze frames, they're really cheesy. Some of the slow motion, like the slow motion gun thing, that was the one instance of slow motion that was good, but the others were like really 80s feeling. It's like, what the fuck? Why is it slow motion? Why is it freeze framing? Ray Liotta looks like a rat. Yeah, that's really it. Otherwise, 9 out of 10. Not 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10.
And where are we putting it in the list?
In the list, okay. So it's above Green Room.
Yeah.
But is it above Inglorious Basterds?
I would say no, personally.
That is really tough. Because I gave both of these movies a 9 out of 10.
I would rather go back and watch Inglorious Basterds than Goodfellas, personally.
You think so?
If I had to choose right now, if like as someone pulled up Netflix and was like, hey, you want to watch Goodfellas or Inglorious Basterds? Yeah. I would say Inglorious Basterds.
But I like them both so much. And they're kind of really similar in a lot of ways, with the over-the-top violence and the character study kind of way of telling story, and those really tense moments where there's no music and there's no, it's just character to character and they're gonna fucking kill each other or whatever. Shit, man. I don't want, but something in me feels like Goodfellas is a better movie than Inglorious Basterds.
But for why?
That's what I'm trying to come up with.
See, I say no, and you can't say anything, so I feel like
no,
I win.
no, you don't, because okay, all right, fine, you win.
Yeah.
Inglorious Basterds is a fucking really good movie.
They're both very good movies, and they both deserve to be up at the top.
I'd say so, yeah.
But one is just more of the top.
I think Inglorious Basterds, you know, I think it gets a really, not bad rap, but no one talks about it as much as Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill when they're talking about Tarantino. Like, fucking why? It's so good.
Very good.
I don't know. Okay, all right.
And Inglorious Basterds has better message.
Kill Nazis.
Kill Nazis. I mean, I guess Goodfellas is like, well, they're like crime works, but only if you don't do drugs.
Yeah, and Goodfellas definitely has like, oh, look at this over-the-top lifestyle they're living, and they completely fuck it up because they're stupid. That kind of thing. And they rat each other out, and they try to kill each other, and that's another thing I actually wanted to talk about, is that slow deterioration of the characters. You could, like, see it in their fucking face and their hair and their teeth. And it's just like, oh my God, like, fuck. Like, he looks so different, like, an hour ago. It's really cool. But I think Inglorious Basterds definitely has... It's about World War II. It's about killing Nazis. It's about killing Hitler and fucking...
Gotta kill Hitler.
Christoph Waltz. Kill Christoph Waltz. Just kidding, please don't. He's a very good actor. I love him.
Oh, also, I almost forgot to bring this up.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you noticed this. My mom did, because she's currently watching The Sopranos.
Dude, there's so many people from The Sopranos in this fucking movie. There's so many.
Karen is what, the therapist?
Karen is a therapist. Spider. He's Chrissy. And then Paulie is in there at the beginning. He's the one that beats up the postman. And he looks the exact fucking same.
I thought that was so funny because she's pointing it out. I was like, wow, that is really wild. Mm-hmm. That it's like, can you play a mobster? It's like, yeah, I can play a mobster. You want to see?
It's so funny. Every fucking mob piece of media has the same fucking 5 actors in them. Like, how many like really good Italian actors are there? I don't know. I was talking to my dad about that, and it was funny. But yeah, okay. So Inglorious Basterds is above Goodfellas. Yeah. For very good reason. In terms of the music tier list, we have Pet Sounds, Fuck the System, and then Currents in third place. In terms of some housekeeping things, we have an Instagram page. Go follow it at One for the Other .podcast. So our YouTube link is in our Instagram bio. You can look us up on YouTube. It's just One for the Other or One for the Other podcast. We'll be uploading it there. We should upload either by Sunday night or Monday morning. Or not Monday morning, Monday whenever. Every week. So frickin' tune in.
Yeah,
everybody.
Tune in and recommend some stuff for us, because we're gonna run out of stuff to listen to and watch eventually.
Most definitely.
Which speaking of, I guess we didn't say this in the last episode. Mm-hmm. I noticed while editing, but the rules, I guess, for what we will and will not watch, just to make sure there's no confusion, there's no bickering, is in terms of records, LPs only, no EPs or singles.
Yes.
Available on streaming platforms. Live albums are okay, mm-hmm. but like a comedy album wouldn't be, which obviously isn't much of a problem nowadays. But yeah, so not much there. In terms of movies, feature length, so no shorts. Documentaries are okay, mm-hmm. But no episodic.
No TV movies, no shows, no series.
Yeah, available on streaming. That would be the biggest thing.
Yes.
Like, feel free to recommend, Fargo all you want, but good luck finding it on Netflix or Hulu or whatever. So
Exactly.
that is kind of our stipulations. If you want to suggest something, make sure that it's available somewhere. I would assume that most music stuff would be on Spotify or SoundCloud, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Definitely, yeah. There's not a lot of things that aren't on Spotify anymore. Email us if you would like with those recommendations. It's onefortheotherpodcast@gmail.com, or just DM us on Instagram, or leave a YouTube comment, whatever.
Or bring it through my front door, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, just message by pigeon works, by horseback.
Telepathic only between the hours of 8 to 5 on days that have a U in them.
So Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways.
And fun day.
I have a record for you and our audience to listen to for the next week on repeat. No listening to anything else ever. We're gonna change the mood a little bit. We're listening to this really stressful shit, okay? And it's stressing me out, Josh. It's stressing me out.
You deserve it.
No. You're gonna hate this. We're gonna listen to some fucking jazz.
Oh.
The record I want everyone to listen to. The record I want everyone to listen to is "A Love Supreme" by John Coltrane.
Love Supreme.
I think it's "A Love Supreme" or "The Love." No, it's "A Love Supreme." Yeah, "A Love Supreme." It's on Spotify. Go listen to it. It'll change your life. You'll have a spiritual experience. You'll meet God. He'll come to your house. He might rob you, but he'll come to your house.
And then you will forget him as soon as he leaves, because that is how he works.
Exactly. He has one of the Men in Black things. So yeah, what do you have for me, fucker?
Well, this is something I noticed a little bit, is that I have a 6 degrees type deal with all of my stuff. We started out with Inglorious Basterds, which was about killing Nazis.
Yes.
And then we went to Green Room, which was about fighting Nazis, but instead of World War II, now you're a punk.
Yeah.
So then I did a punk record from the UK. So this time we're going to do a movie that stars a UK actor, and that is Swiss Army Man starring Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've never seen that.
Me neither.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one to talk about, because I've heard very mixed things.
I don't know much about it. I kind of know the basic premise, and I know that it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna be, and we'll see. I already actually kind of know what the album I want to do for the week after is, and I don't think it's gonna fit into the 6 degrees, but maybe I'll find a way to corkscrew it in.
So it'll be 4 degrees, 3 degrees, 4 degrees.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. That concludes our podcast. Everyone go listen to "A Love Supreme" by John Coltrane. Everyone go watch Swiss Army Knife. Let us know what you think. Suggest things for us to watch, listen to.
Swiss Army Man.
Did I say knife?
Yes.
Swiss Army Man knife.
You're fired. I'm now taking applications to fill one spot on the podcast. Please email me at laneisfired@gmail.com.
Don't.
I will be accepting. I need a resume and a cover letter detailing in 250 words or more why Pet Sounds is not a 10 out of 10.
Fuck you. Everyone on Instagram, DM us on why the Beach Boys are one of the best bands from the 1960s and why Pet Sounds is a fucking goddamn masterpiece. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.